A compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on History, our version. I've arrived. Who captured old cities? Who gave a name to dateless countries? These words are unfamiliar to us, yet all of them are full of meaning. They occupied monstrous areas and seemingly moved all around. The world map contains roots of their migrations. Many words have been preserved as a reminder about their long-gone ancestors in the discourses of many ethnicities, the eternal migrants or simply nomadic people. The Celt means I have come. Where from, though? Celt, Kelde, Kete, these are Turkic words. 5,000 years ago, a community of cultures was formed. There was a process going on, and it's hard to track it, but it goes without a doubt. It was known as Turkification. Chapter 1. Born in the Past. Italy, a city situated at the foot of the Alps. Turin, the city, was first mentioned in the 3rd century BC. The tribes that had lived here used to call themselves as the residents of Taurin. The word Tau translates as a mountain. There is an allusion to something Turkic. Then Caesar's legionaries came over, the tribes it conquered, and creatively rethought this name. According to the Roman version, the word Turinese derives from Taurus, meaning the Tour. The Turinese is a Celtic tribe. They were one of the most numerous and mysterious ancient people. The Celts in Western Europe, especially in Gaul, Spain, Britain, was a group of people who had come from Asia and was conquered by the Romans and then by the German tribes. We are in the heart of Eurasia and right in the center of a vast territory. This leads us to the thought that all the ancient migrations had been crisscrossing this area. The etymology of the word Celt is unclear. They are sometimes interpreted as aliens or people living secretly. They appeared in Europe for the first time in the 10th century BC, around the time when burial mounds were first seen over the tombs of Celtic kings. Their morals and appearance carry a lot more legends than documented evidence. Even speechful Herodotus dedicated just a few lines to them. In them he said that the Celts live behind the pillars of Hercules and they're the westmost people. Some ancient writers' descriptions show that the Celts had been tall, blue-eyed, brown hair and delicate skin. However, not all Celts may be brought under this description. Graves of Celtic warriors, that is, the representatives of the society's public leaders found in Central Europe, show that there was a significant difference in men's heights. However, this wasn't only about their height, it also applied to the structure of their brain case, eye shape. Some were chubby-faced brunettes and others were green-eyed blondes. Some had black curly hair while others had mongoloid facial features. It's very likely that a Turkic element is present in the conglomerate of Celts. This was one of the most common versions of Indo-European origin. This version assumed that it was mainly a set of belligerent tribes sharing some commonality in their language and material culture. Most scientists think that using the term Celtic civilization is more relevant because only some of the tribes had indeed come from Asia. The others didn't leave their homeland. It was only in the 18th century that these peoples were united by a single word Celt, whereas in Julius Caesar's lifetime only a tribe was known as the Celt. Gaul in its entirety may be divided into 3 parts. The Belgi populate one of the parts, the other one is home to the Aquitanians, and the third one is a tribe called in their own language as the Celts, or as the Gauls in our language. They're all distinct from each other in terms of their language, establishments and the law. There is a very short list of commonly recognized Celtic traces in Europe. Vienna, known in the Celtic language as Vidunia, means a forest river. Belgium derives its name from the Felis Belgi. Belfast in Celtic means mouth of the sandbanks. Boii made themselves at home in the Czech Bohemia, and the Parisi lived in Paris. Even if the names of the cities don't coincide, they were all inhabited by the Celts. The history of Budapest begins in the 1st century BC. Some Celtic tribes founded a settlement on the bank of Danube River and called it Akinc, and later the Romans called it Aquincum. However, there were tribes that had come over here a few centuries earlier and had come from Asia. They were the Scythians, who relocated to the Carpathian Mountains in the 7th or the 8th century BC. The belief is that the people who called themselves Celts were Gauls in the Roman language, and in the 3rd century BC they started the capital of Galatia, presently known as the Turkish city of Ankara. In ancient times, Ankara was known as Ankira. When translated into Russian, this word means station. So why do the Celts have these Turkic parlance? Every Turkic ethnicity existing today has somehow immigrated to the land where they live now, because so far we haven't been able to discover the lands with which the Turkic discourse could be connected. Chapter 2. Similar pathways. Somerset County in the south of the United Kingdom. Tor, tower, it resonates with the same word mount in the Celtic dialect. Glastonbury Tor is a 200-meter hill. It used to be an island, as archaeologists found remnants of ancient boats in the area. Now it's all filled with dark green fields. England, Ireland, Scotland are Celtic about too. Ancient sagas say that the immigrants were mainly shepherds, and cattle lifting was their main kind of entertainment and means of subsistence known as barimta. However, the Scythians are thought to have been the first to inhabit this land. Apparently, these two mysterious peoples trod the globe along the same pathways. The land of the Celts is so vast and huge that it stretches from the external sea and the northernmost regions of the inhabited world to the east, reaching Meotida and borders on Pontic Scythia. Here the Celts and Scythians mix up, and from this point onwards their migration begins. Even though every tribe has a name of its own, the entire troops have a common name, Celto-Scythians. The Celts were magnificent horse riders, metal makers, and this is very similar to the Scythians. In fact, some Celtic graves may be confused with the Sarmatian burials. Eurasian nomads had some similar view on the world. If a close relationship with the Scythians is looked at as a potential version, then the Turkic pronunciation of the Celts becomes even more probable. Herodotus said that the Scythians had spoken in 7 different languages. The 7 languages are assumed to be various ethnicities, ranging from different ethnic groups and language families existing today in those areas. They could include Turkic, Finno-Ugric, Slavic, Iranian, Caucasian and other peoples. This could also involve the people speaking the Altai languages. Scythian kings ruled the Scythians and they obeyed him. This means that their language was the language of inter-Scythian communications to a certain extent. I have researched their language, myths, terminology and ethnography. I compared those with the myths and arts of modern Turkic nations. Based upon that, we made a conclusion that the royal Scythians were a Turkic ethnicity. The Turkic origin of the Celts is surely a controversial issue. There are, however, some parallels. For instance, take Danube. It's a Celtic name too. It means fast waters, but there is a different version as well. River names such as Don and Danube were formed as a result of ancient Turks' presence in the eastern steppes. They're divided from ancient Turkic word tin, tinis, timik. Celtic art is focused on zoomorphic ornament. This is characteristic of Scythian tribes. We find these ornaments in the motifs, the prints and the tunes of ancient Celts. For example, this is a Celtic cross. It symbolizes the sun and the four cardinal directions, the circle and the cross. This is an ancient Christian cross. It is equipolant, and in modern life of Kazakhs it's comparable with the Shanirak. This is the legacy of the Tengrian culture. It signifies a Khan, or the sky of the great Tengri. The islands of England, or the foggy Albion as some call it, and midday Asia. The road is long, but in terms of time it might have taken thousands of years and apparently multiple journeys. Chapter 3. The Celt Through and Through. China, Urumqi, pioneers walk in uncoordinated files to Museum of Local Law to learn history. A few thousand years ago in Xinjiang, an unidentified group of people. This is what they looked like. It's still unclear who they were. The lowland beauty was named so after the city where the mummy had been found. The woman had died aged around 40. The corpse was well preserved. Scientists even found traces of makeup on her face. A total of 300 mummies were found in the location, dating to a time that ranges from the 20th to the 2nd century BC. Most of them were as tall as 2 meters, with European looks, but with some Mongoloid features. This is another mummy of a woman. One can see her nails. A strangely looking tattoo, or just some painting is evident on the skin. Because the mummies have their mouths open, they are called as the sinning mummies, or the crying mummies. The mouths of these people were full of clay. It might have been made on purpose, or was the result of the time that had elapsed since they had died. A red dressing gown has been well preserved, stockings made of fleece, leather shoes. The colour and textiles of fabrics worn by the mummies remind of the ones worn in Scotland. Apparently this nation came to the Central Asian region from the west. British researcher Elizabeth Barber thinks that they are the ancestors of the Celts. Interestingly, the Chinese mummies are similar to the ones found in the Altai and scientifically known as the Pazyryk early Scythian culture. There are hypotheses saying that the Celts and the Scandinavians once resettled in the Altai. Once again, it brings us back to the similar place names. Another version is the feedback effect. Assumingly, the Turkic language borrowed immigrants' vernacular, meaning that the Celts' real homeland was in Europe. Apparently, they simply came to Asia in prehistoric times, left their traces there in the form of place names and other linguistic imprints, and mixed up with local tribes. After that, the call of blood and homeland made them go back. Epilogue. Under shroud of mystery. The foothills of Zaylisky Alatau in Kazakhstan, Almaty. The General Genetics and Cytology Institute. Ellie is getting prepared to look at the state of certain genes. Genetics can potentially put an end to numerous versions, or at least set a few things straight. One may just look at the Genetic Geography project and see that a lot of discoveries have been made so far. The Turkic influence was rather powerful indeed. Research done by European scientists proves genetic coincidences of the Celtic peoples, in particular people from Scotland, with the Turkic peoples. However, there haven't been any larger-scale research activities in this area. Human genome or the Genetic Geography projects are out, but unfortunately, Kazakhstan hasn't participated in any of these genome initiatives. We don't know, but they know. The stones know, even the trees know. And remember, they remember who named the mountains and the rivers.